अस्सलामु अलैकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू एंड वेलकम बैक। ब्रेक से पहले मुहतरम नाज़रीन और सामीन से गुजारिश की है कि थोड़े से एक दो अल्फाज में उर्दू में बोलूँ, तो जिसको उर्दू में समझता है और सुनता है तो उनके लिए भी थोड़े से फ़ायदा होगा इंशाअल्लाह। तो मैंने अर्ज़ किया ब्रेक से पहले कि रमज़ान के लिए अभी से तैयारी होनी चाहिए। ये नहीं कि रमज़ान में फिर आदमी तैयारी कर रहा है। यह है कि जो मसाइल जो है उनको सीखना पड़ेगा, जिसको वो तैयारी है। जैसे कि औरत के लिए जब रमज़ान शुरू होता है तो औरत जैसे बीवी है या माँ है या बहन है या बेटियां हैं, तो वो 3-4 घंटे किचन में दाखिल है और खाना पका रहा है। तो वो रमज़ान के जो फ़ायदा है और वो जो फ़ज़ाइल है, कुरान पढ़ना, ज़िक्र करना, सलाह पढ़ना, उन सब को उनको नहीं मिलता है। और रमज़ान का ऐसा मैंने कि हम खुद पेट को देखकर ये नहीं कि को पेट भरना है, अभी को हमको रूहानियत को हासिल करना है, दिल को साफ़ करना है ज़िक्र के साथ। तो औरतों को भी ऐसे मौका देना पड़ेगा, इसलिए कि पूरा साल में 300 से ज़्यादा दिन हैं। इसमें हम सब दिन हमारे जो औरतें हैं घर में वो हमारे लिए खाना पकाता है। कभी उनको कभी नहीं कहता कि भाई आज नहीं या कल नहीं वगैरह। तो उनके लिए थोड़ी से ब्रेक होने चाहिए रमज़ान में। तो वो ख़ुद भी जिसको ये फ़ज़ाइल है इसके कुरान पढ़ना, बयान को सुनना, तो उनके लिए भी ये फ़ायदा होता है। इसलिए कि अगर ये नहीं मिलता है ना तो उनका फिर एक और रमज़ान से जाएगा। और ये हमारा और भी बद आदत है कि जब ये आखिरी 10 दिन शुरू होता है ना, तो ये नहीं कि अभी इसमें शॉपिंग करना है ईद के लिए या कि किसी और काम में मशगूल होना चाहिए। ये आखिरी जो 10 दिन हैं इनके लिए हमको ख़ुद अपने को फ़ारिग करना पड़ेगा। अगर कुछ काम है वहाँ से छुट्टी लेना। अभी तो ये कोविड चल रहा है, तो इसकी वजह से सब आदमी घर से काम कर रहा है, होम से काम कर रहा है। तो फिर भी आदमी ऐसे कर सकता है कि भाई ये 10 दिन के लिए मैं छुट्टी लूँगा तो मैं थोड़ी सी और मेहनत करूँगा। और ये नहीं कि अपने ज़ात पर अपने आप को मेहनत करना, दूसरों पर यानी बच्चों पर भी और जो घर वाले औरतों जो हैं उस पर भी। The question I also put forward before we took the break is for a woman, obviously, that her menstrual cycle starts. If her menstrual cycle has started before the suhoor time, then obviously she will not fast. If her menstrual cycle starts later on in the day and it's not at the time of suhoor, then she should start her fast. And obviously when her haid starts, then she should break her fast and she should eat, but she should try to do it inconspicuously. When it comes to a lady who started the fast, or rather the fast started while she was in a state of haid, then she should obviously not fast. If, however, she becomes pure, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and she makes ghusl, now what she should do is she should refrain from eating. Reason why she should refrain from eating, because she should now start imitating fasting people. Obviously, she herself is not fasting. We know that because she didn't meet the conditions of fasting, and the condition of fasting is that her fast should start from Subh Sadiq, but it didn't. So that's something to bear in mind. Also, I just wanted to just a thought crossed my mind. So if anybody would like parts of it in Pukhto as well, then please call in, and I'm more than happy to explain a few masail in Pukhto as well. When it comes to children who have severe special needs, this is another matter. Or even, adults with severe special needs, then they would not be required to fast because they would come under a couple of categories. One is that they're not well, and secondly also that they cannot kind of look after themselves, and in essence they're not accountable. Further on, those ladies who are pregnant, yani wo aurat jaise ko hamila hai, that woman who's pregnant or the lady who is breastfeeding, then in those cases, if the mother feels that either she will not produce milk for her child because of fasting, or she feels, and obviously as a result the child would suffer, particularly at the very early developmental stages of the child, or that the woman is pregnant and she knows that by cutting down on certain nutrients or certain vitamins, that's going to have an impact on the child, then she is also excused from fasting. Obviously, in all of these cases, that person would have to make qada. Okay, that's important to understand. That once the issue that was blocking the person, once that issue has gone, then obviously she is required to, or whoever, in this case obviously she, is required to make those fasts up. it's important that we understand that we should not delay fasts for the sake of delaying them. Reason is because those 29 days, those 30 days are absolutely vital days. They won't come again. Even if you fast outside of Ramadan, it's not the same as fasting in Ramadan. Apart from obviously if a woman who is menstruating, she cannot choose to do that. Or a woman knows that by her fasting it's going to have a detrimental effect on the health of her unborn child or on the health of her born child, then she is excused because that's not something she's doing out of choice. So where the person is not fasting is because all these people are legally excused. For somebody who's not legally excused, if they choose not to fast, for whatever reason, I feel a bit tired today, I'm only going to fast on, XY days and I'm going to make the others up, like that, then that person needs to understand that even if that person fasts the whole year, they will not get the same reward as they would have got if they fasted those 30 days. That's essential. Remember, this does not apply to those people who are legally excused. This applies to those who are not legally excused, who just choose not to fast because they may get tired. Well, surprise, surprise, you're going to get tired. They may get thirsty. Well, surely that comes as no shock that you're going to get thirsty if you're fasting, or for every other reason. You sometimes hear people say, oh, how can that be healthy for you, to not eat for 12, 10 hours, whatever. And then, we find out about this thing called intermittent fasting, how that's so good for us to lose weight and how that gets rid of toxins from our bodies. And then suddenly we want to do intermittent fasting. So we're only kind of picking and choosing what we feel when we should and we shouldn't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows full well what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. Old and physically weak individuals, obviously when a person becomes old, they're now reaching that age where they're really struggling. They have to take regular medication. Any lack of nutrients or nutrition is going to have a severe effect on them. Then they are excused from fasting. What they should do is obviously, if there's any hope that they may recover from this state, is not fast. And maybe fast in the winter days and the winter months, because those days are considerably shorter. If that person who's getting old and older can't even fast in the short days in winter, then that person should wait until they think they're going to recover. If there is no hope of recovery, in fact, this person knows that over the last 5 years, everything has just been going one way, that they've just been deteriorating year by year, and there's no chance of recovery, then that person would give what we call fidya. And that fidya is half a sa of wheat or barley, a sa of dates, which will be calculated. It's available on the website, and that would come to about £1, sort of, £1.50, £1.80, depending on what particular commodity you use and what quantity, obviously, and where you're buying it from. Then they would give that as fidya. And, for 29 days, they would calculate it and they would give that away. If it so happened that that person made a miraculous recovery, 6 months later, suddenly they get a clean bill of health, they're absolutely fine, they've got no issues to worry about, it's all good, then in those circumstances, that fidya has gone and they will be required to fast again. So that's important to understand, the difference between a person not recovering, continuously deteriorating. He gives fidya because he knows he's not going to get any better, but he's still not excused from the from the fasting. So therefore he would have to give something as an alternative whilst he's alive. Once he passes away, obviously then all obligations are removed. And if that person does make a recovery, then that person is obviously expected to continue to fast those months for however number of years that they did so, that they gave fidya. They will now have to make qadha of those fasts. Qadha is something that has to be done. So any person who does not fast for whatever reason is required to fast upon when that legal excuse goes. So whilst that legal excuse remains, that person is excused. As soon as the legal excuse goes, that person is required to fast. And if that person had no legal excuse and that person carries the burden of sin for not fasting for no reason, if one breaks a fast, well, we'll get to things like qadha and kafara in more detail as we progress. Let's just now touch upon when does the fast begin and when does the fast end. We've already mentioned that Subh Sadiq is the time when the fast starts, and obviously sunset is when the fast ends. It is not sunrise when the fast starts. That's not correct. It is dawn when the fast starts. Similarly, I know there is a verse of the Quran which mentions that you should fast until the black thread becomes distinct from the white thread. This is not talking about, being able to visually see two threads and know that, at night you cannot differentiate between a white thread and a black thread. They both look the same. It's only that when it gets lighter and lighter that you can clearly see one's white and one's black. Otherwise, at night, every color looks the same, black. It's only as when light starts to come in that we start to see different colors, different spectrum of light being absorbed and different being reflected. And that's when we start to see color. Otherwise, we just see black everywhere because there's no light. So that's not referring to that. What it's referring to is what we call Subh Sadiq. So Subh Sadiq, as we've mentioned already in the Salat time conversation that we had a week or 2 weeks back, now I'm trying to recall. In that time, we mentioned that this is something what we call 18 degrees solar depression. That's when it's Subh Sadiq. If for whatever reason it does not reach 18 degrees, well, for Subh Sadiq it will, for Isha it won't, then we know that it will always reach 18 degrees. So after 18 degrees, one should not eat. If a person wants to be extra precautious, and this is something that I advise, and in fact I know Darul Uloom Karachi also passed the fatwa on this position, is that one should pray Fajr after 15 degrees. This is the more ahwat, this is the more precautious method to adopt. That stop eating at 18 degrees and pray your Fajr after 15 degrees. All this information is available on the documents that I spoke about when I spoke about Salat times. Suhoor, some people say, I don't really want to make suhoor. Okay, that's fine. You don't need to make it. But suhoor is something which is highly recommended by the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's barakah in it. What do we mean by barakah? This is something we don't understand. I probably don't have enough time to explain to you what barakah is. Maybe that's something I could start with in tomorrow's session about barakah. So somebody could remind me, or hopefully the producer will remind me, or I will remind myself that when I start tomorrow's session, inshallah, I will start talking about barakah, as to what is this word that we have. And we always say, barakallahu feek, may Allah put barakah in you. May there be barakah in this. And whenever we start a business enterprise or we ask for barakah in our food, when there is a dawat, a walima, or something like that, we ask for barakah in our food. What is this that we're asking for? What is barakah? Does it make the food taste better? What does it do? But as I said, that's for tomorrow, inshallah. Just to put you on a kind of a little bit of a cliffhanger, put you on tender hooks that, so you actually tune in and listen to me tomorrow, inshallah. You'll find out about barakah. So we should take a suhoor because there's barakah in it, and we'll tell you what barakah is. Even if it's a glass of water, a couple of dates, something, just to kind of, as I say, wet the appetite a little bit, get something inside the stomach, some extra energy that we need. I appreciate that at this time there's a very short time between Isha and Subh Sadiq, so there's not much a person can eat in that short space of time. But even then, glass of water, a couple of sips, maybe a date, something like that, knowing that you're acting upon a sunnah. Because remember, we want to maximize our reward in this month of Ramadan. So why not maximize the reward in this month of Ramadan by taking suhoor, by adopting a sunnah? That's how we're going to get the reward. So we should maximize that. We should find out all the sunnah and try to do them. We should set ourselves goals for how much of the Quran we're going to recite. Whether it's going to be 3 khatams or 2 or 1 or whatever. We should push ourselves. We should push ourselves to say, you know what, I've owed qadha salahs for X number of years. I'm going to pray 20 a day. You know what, I'm going to pray 50 a day. And I'm going to work on that and get my qazas out of the way. I'm going to, I wanted to learn about certain masail. I'm going to do that. Find things to occupy your Ramadan so that it becomes productive. And this is a sunnah. To take the suhoor, to partake in the suhoor is a sunnah. So do it with that intention, not that, oh, what's a glass of water going to do? It's not really going to fill me up and I'm going to be thirsty anyway in the morning. It's not about that. You're clearly missing the point about Ramadan. Ramadan is about the fact that you are trying to adopt the practices of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in order that we draw close to him and in order that we can better ourselves spiritually so that we become better people. So we can deal with life after Ramadan with all its ups and downs and all the difficulties it comes with. So on that point, I'm going to take leave, inshallah ta'ala, and we will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, and I will start by discussing Barakah. So see you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.